The 20 sermons on dependent origination were preached by Venerable Bhikkhu Katakurunde Nyanananda in Sinhala at Podgulgala Forest Hermitage in Sri Lanka, his last times before his death. Now I preach their English translation. Sermon 1. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage be to the fortunate one, the worldly, fully enlightened. Yadha have phatu bhavanti dhamma athapino jhayato brahmanassa atasya khankha vapayanti sabba yatho pajanati sahetu dhammam. Yada have patu bhavanti dhamma athapino jayato brahmanassa atasya khankha vapayanti sabba yatho khayanam pachayanam avedi. Yadha have patu bhavanti dhamma athapino jayato brahmanassa vidhopayam tittati marasenam suryo obhasaya mantalikham. Udana Bodhivagga. When phenomena manifest themselves to the ardently meditating Brahmin, then all his debates get dispelled, since he knows the causal law. When phenomena manifest themselves to the ardently meditating Brahmin, then all his debates get dispelled, since he knows the extinction of conditions. When phenomena manifest themselves to the ardently meditating Brahmins, dispelling host of Mara, he stands like the sun illumining the firmament. Dear listeners, the teacher of the three worlds, the fortunate one, fully enlightened after his attainment of enlightenment in the province of Uruvela on the bank of river Neranjara, remained seated under the Bodhi tree for 7 days, experiencing the bliss of emancipation. According to the first 3 discourses of the Udana, the Buddha at the end of the 7 days kept attending thoughtfully to the law of dependent arising during the 3 watches of the 7th night. The 3 verses we brought up as the topic of our sermon today were uttered by the Buddha as paeans of joy, Udana, joy means Udana, proclaiming that he attended the law of dependent arising in 3 ways during the 3 watches of the night. Although on the first hearing one might think that all 3 verses are similar, those who listened carefully would have understood that the second verse differs from the first after 3 lines by substituting a new line as the 4th. Then, in the 3rd verse after the 2 lines, the 3rd and 4th lines say something new. For all the apparent similarity, Each verse has a significance of its own in that it describes one of the three ways in which the Buddha attended to the law of dependent arising. It is perhaps due to the specific importance of each of those verses that this discourse collection, the Udana, introduces each of the three verses with the same introductory story. First of all, let us try to understand the meaning of the verse that comes at the end of the first discourse. Even by getting at the meaning of these three verses, we can get some idea of the law of dependent arising. To begin with, let us form a general idea of the meaning. Yada have patu bhavanti dhamma athapino nyayato brahmanassa. When phenomena manifest themselves to the ardently meditating Brahmin, according to the terminology of this dispensation, the term Brahmin on occasion can refer to the Arahant or to the Buddha. Here we have to understand it in that sense. Atassa kankha vapayanti sabba yathopajanati sahetu dhammam. When those phenomena become manifest to the Brahmin, all his debates get dispelled because he understands thereby the law of causality. This then is meaning of the first verse. Now, for the second verse, it begins in the same way. At whatever time phenomena manifest themselves to the ardently meditating Brahmin, all his debates get dispelled. Yatho kayanam pachayanam avedi, since he knows the cessation of conditions. And now for the third verse. Yada have patu bhavanti dhamma athapino nyayato brahmanassa. When phenomena manifest themselves to the ardently meditating Brahmin, then something new comes up. Vidhupayang titati marasenam suryova obhasaya mandalikham. Like the sun illumining the sky, he stands dispelling the host of Mara. That is, just as the sun dispels the darkness, so he dispels the host of Mara. So, this is the meaning of the three verses. Let us now try to understand the law of dependent arising with the help of these three verses. The three ways of attention are briefly stated in the three discourses as follows. During the first watch of the night, the Buddha attended the law of dependent arising in the direct order, and during the second and middle watch in the reverse order. During the last watch, he combined both ways of attending and attended in both direct and reverse order. Now we shall give a clue to the understanding of these three ways of attention. The first line of the verse says, Yadha have patu bhavanti dhamma. When phenomena manifest themselves. What are these phenomena? The discourse itself explains what they are. Those of you who are acquainted with the law of dependent arising know that it consists of 12 factors. Some may even recite the formula in their meditation. Avijja paccaya sankhara, sankhara paccaya vijnana, vijnana paccaya namarupam, namarupa paccaya salayatana, salayatana paccaya passo, passa paccaya vedana, vedana paccaya tanha, tanha paccaya upadana, upadana paccaya bhavo, bhavo paccaya jati, jati paccaya jara maranam, soka parideva dukkha domanas upayasa sambhavanti. Eva me tassa kevalasa dukkha khandasa samudayo hoti. From ignorance as condition, preparations. From preparations as condition, consciousness. From consciousness, name and form. From name and form, the six sense bases. From the six sense bases, contact. From contact, feelings. From feelings, craving. From craving, grasping. From grasping, becoming. From becoming, birth. From birth, as condition, arise, decay, and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Such is the arising of this entire mass of suffering. This is the occurrence of these 12 conditions that is meant by the paras when phenomena manifest themselves. The 12 factors are called conditions patichcha because none of them arises by itself. They arise due to cause and conditions. When phenomena manifest themselves to the ardently meditating Brahmin, his doubts are dispelled. How? The last line gives the answer. Yatho pajanati sahetu dhammam, because he understands now the law of causality. What is called Patichcha samuppada is actually that the norm, that law of nature. That norm is stated as a formula in 4 lines. Only the first 2 came to light in the first sutta. Iti imasming sati idang hote, imassa upada idang upajjati. Thus, this being, this comes to be. With the rising of this arises. Now, this is the statement of the law, its directed order. The first sutta deals with the 2 principles relevant to the direct order. One might wonder why the statement has this and this where we expect to have this and that, as this being that come to be. There is a subtle point involved in the apparently overt statement. The reason is that if we take up any couple of links by the 12-link formula of illustration of the law conjured by Patichcha, such as, for instance, avijja paccaya sankhara, with ignorance as condition preparations, we have to say this being, this arises. Only if we are referring to something outside the context, outside the couple of links we have taken up, we have to say that it is important to remember that the 12 links of the formula of dependent arising serve to illustrate the first principle. This being, this comes to be. With the rising of this arises. Let us cite some such illustrations. When there is ignorance, preparations comes to be. With the rising of ignorance, preparation arises. When there are preparations, consciousness comes to be. With the rising of preparations, consciousness arises. When there is consciousness, name and form comes to be. With the rising of consciousness, name and form arises. It is this first principle that is called Sahetu Dhamma, the causal law. The essential thing is to understand the law as such. But what often happens is to fully ignore it and be satisfied with the rattling off of the 12 wings. Some are not even aware that there is a first principle involved. On the other hand, the discourse begins with that first principle itself, saying that the Buddha attended thoroughly to the law of dependent arising in directed order. Anuloma, it is the Pali word, anuloma, for the directed order. Iti masmin sati idang hoti samuppada idang upajjati. Thus, this comes to be. With the rising of this arises. An illustration of that first principle are introduced with the conjunctive yadidang, namely, from ignorance as condition, preparations, from preparations as condition, consciousness, from consciousness, name and form, from name and form, six sense sprays, from six sense sprays, contact, from contact, feeling, from feeling, craving, from craving, grasping, from grasping, becoming, from becoming, birth, from birth, as condition arises, decay and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair. Last of all comes the statement which explains what all this is about. Thus comes to be the arising of this entire mass of suffering. So that direct order explains the arising of this mass of suffering. We said that there are three ways of attending during the first watch of the night. The Buddha attended thoroughly to the arising aspect. That is why the first two lines amounted to say, this being, this comes to be. With the rising of this arises. It is as an illustration of this fact that the 12 links are stated as summed by the sentence. Thus comes to be the rising of this entire mass of suffering. The first verse expresses the same idea. At the same time, let us try to understand the significance of the third line of the verse. Athassa kankha vapayanti sabba. All these debates get dispelled. Now, what are these debates? In order to understand what they are, one has to read the Sabbhavasa Sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya. The ordinary worldling has debates and wavering in regards to the three periods of time, past, future and present. As to the past, the ordinary worldling who has not seen his law of dependent arising is fully immersed in the personality view, Sakkaya Ditthi, thinking in terms of I and mine, that attains universally to the past. Thus, was I in the past? Was I not in the past? What was I in the past? How was I in the past? Having been what? What did I become? in past. The ordinary worldling sets about reasoning with the postulate I. Similarly, he attends to the future in 5 ways. This kind of attention is called ayoniso manasikara, wrong attention, or non-radical attention. This is how he attains to the future. Shall I be in the future? Shall I not be in the future? What shall I be in the future? How shall I be in the future? Having been what? What shall I become in the future? This may sound jocular, but all worldlings are in this jocular position. Then about the present, he attains in 6 ways which may sound even funnier. Am I? Am I not? What I am? How am I? Where has this being come from? Where will it go? The being here represents the self-idea. He is involved in the self-view. These 16 false debates gets dispelled by seeing the norm of conditionality. This is the way the noble disciple who has understood the law of dependent arising by the path of stream winning entertains no debates of this sort. All these debates arises because of reasoning in terms of I and mine, based on the personality view. The Buddha has declared that this way of reasoning leads to 62 views. They end up by falling into 2 extremes. Either they take up the view I exist, or go on asserting I do not exist as regards the future. Thereby, on the one hand, they uphold the eternalist view by claiming that they have a permanent soul, or on the other hand, they go to the annihilationist extreme by asserting that there would be no more after death, since the body itself is the soul. Brahmajala Sutta says that in between these 2 extreme views there are as many as 62 views. All those views get dispelled even by seeing the arising aspect of the conditions. That is the meaning of the first verse. What we have said so far is gleaned from the first verse. Out of the 3 models of attending to the law of dependent arising, the first is the direct mode, which is concerned with the arising aspect. The second verse refers to the way of attending during the middle watch of the night. Yato khayanang pachayanang avedi, since he knows the extinction of conditions. What the second verse says in particular is that the Buddha saw the extinction of conditions when he attended to the reverse order. He saw that the conditions become extinct preciously because they arise due to conditions. This fact is summed up in these 2 statements. Iti imasming sati idang hoti, imas samuppada idang upajjati. Thus, this not be iti imasmin asati idang nahoti imasa nirodha idang nirujyati. Thus, this does not come to be. With the cessation of this ceases. The word nirodha, cessation, is introduced with it and the illustration follows. Avijjayatveva asesa viraga nirodho sankhara nirodha. Sankhara nirodha vijnana nirodho. Vijnana nirodha nama rupa nirodho. Nama rupa nirodha salayatana nirodho. Salayatana nirodha passa nirodho. Passa nirodha vedana nirodho. Vedana nirodha tanha nirodho. Tanha nirodha upadana nirodho. Upadana nirodha bhava nirodho. Bhava nirodha jati nirodho. Jati nirodha jara marana soka parideva dukkha dhomanasa upayasa nirujjanti. Evame tassa kevalasa dukkha khandasa nirodho hoti. With the cessation of ignorance, the cessation of preparations. With the cessation of preparations, the cessation of consciousness. With the cessation of consciousness, the cessation of name and form. With the cessation of name and form, the cessation of six sense sprays. With the cessation of six sense sprays, the cessation of contact. With the cessation of contact, the cessation of feeling. With the cessation of feeling, the cessation of craving. With the cessation of craving, the cessation of grasping. With the cessation of grasping, the cessation of becoming. With the cessation of becoming, the cessation of birth. With the cessation of birth, decay and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair ceases. Then come the conclusive statement. Thus, there comes to be the cessation of this entire mass of suffering. So this is the cessation expect, which is called the reverse order, Patiloma. In this manner, both the direct and the reverse order of the law of dependent arising were attended to during the first 2 watches of the night. Now for the 3rd watch of the night, here we have something that goes deeper. How did the Buddha spend the 3rd watch? He combined both the direct and the reverse order in attending to the law of dependent arising. One cannot easily understand the depth of this way of combined attention. It is presented in the discourse by hitting all the 4 causes of the law of dependent arising together. This being, this comes to be. With the rising of this arises. This not being, this does not come to be. With the cessation of this, it ceases. With this citation, the norm of Patichcha samuppada is expressed in full. Then as the illustration of this norm, both the rising and cessation aspects of the 12 wings are given. Their formulation in the direct order being as usual with the words avijja paccaya sankhara, sankhara paccaya vijnana, etc. From ignorance as condition, preparations. From preparations as condition, consciousness, etc. Summed up by the statement that this is the rising of this entire mass of suffering. But then come the highly significant statement avijjayatveva asesa viraga nirodha sankhara nirodho. But with the remainderless fading away and cessation of ignorance, there comes to be the cessation of preparations, and so on. Though easily overlooked, the but here is of prime importance in assessing the significance of this combined attention, as it may be called the nature of the unimaginably long samsara is such that probably we say that there is no being to ignorance as the cause of it. But these paras assert that all the same, with the remainders fading away of ignorance, the other links of the chain, preparations, consciousness, name and form, etc., cease, although culminating in the cessation of the entire mass of samsaric suffering. Hence, the pivotal significance of ignorance in the formula. This occurs immediately, not as generally understood in the course of these three lives. You know how Patichcha samuppada is explained nowadays. With the cessation of ignorance, all the other links up to decay and death ceases. This is an extremely deep point, that is to say, the combined attention in the direct and the reverse order. Even the simile given in this connection has deeper implications. Vedupayam tittate marasenam suryo obasaya mantalikam. Dispelling hosts of Mara, he stands like the sun illumining the firmament. It would take 1 hour to give a full commentary to these two lines. This simile alludes to the change that the Brahmin undergoes as he attains to the direct and reverse order simultaneously. At the moment, the Brahmin is dispelling the force of Mara. In fact, the word Vidupayam rendered literally means fumigating and smoking out, as in the seas of exorcising demonic force by caustic incense. So the allusion is the Buddha's conquest of Mara, the sun illumining the sky in the light of wisdom. The army of Mara is the impelling power of thought. Those of you who have read the Padahana Sutta of the Sutta Nipada would know how the Buddha Bodhisattva himself has defined the 10 armies of Mara. Kama te patamasena dutiya arati uchati. Tatiya kupi pasate chatutti tanha pachayati. Sense desires is your first battalion. The second is called dejection. Hunger and thirst make up the third, and craving is called the fourth. According to this definition, the 10 armies of Mara are the thoughts, sense desires, dejection in regard to the holy life, thoughts about hunger and thirst and craving, etc. All these are distracting thoughts. Now what does this imply? All these thoughts arise due to ignorance. These are the sankharas or preparations which make up this world with its pleasures and pains. So at whatever moment one attends, both in the direct and reverse order, in an extremely subtle way, thoughts are simply displaced. What does the amount to? In our sermons, we have pointed out on many occasions that deliverance is not something that comes in the other world, but one that is realizable here and now in the Arahant's mind by the subsidence of thoughts. You may have heard that Nibbana is called the stilling of all preparations and the relinquishment of all assets. This is a reference to the Arhatpala Samadhi, Avitakka Samadhi, thoughtless concentration, and Avitakka Jhana, thoughtless absorption, are also illustration to it. Now the last mentioned simile is a description of this Arhatpala Samadhi. Then battalion of thoughts called army of Mara is put into flight. When the direct and reverse order of attending is accelerated. Sometimes in our sermons we gave a simile to illustrate this way of combined attention. The simile of sharpening a razor. In sharpening a razor on a wet stone or on a leather strap, the razor blade is moved up and down, up and down. And at the final stage of sharpening, the blade has been moved repeatedly up and down. Similarly, we are both the direct and reverse order until razor is sharp. Thoughts can no longer survive. At the moment, name and form it cut off, the consciousness gains freedom as non-manifestative consciousness. The third stage, therefore, is in effect Arhatpala Samadhi itself. So, then we have sufficiently explained the three stages. We have here the law of dependent arising as such. We mustn't mix up things. The basic law we have mentioned already, namely what is optimized in the 4 lines. That is what is essential. Though many go on rattling of the 12 wings, they do not know what is all about. The 12 wings are only illustrations. They are called Patichcha Dhamma, conditioned things. What is called Sahetu Dhamma is not the basic principle we have already mentioned. This being, this comes to be. With the rising of this arises. This does not come to be. With the cessation of this ceases. Only a Buddha can discover this law. It is such a wonderful thing. Why? Because what up to then was explained in terms of I and mine. The Buddha pointed out as a phenomenon that occurred due to a collection of factors casually conditioned, that is to say, the law of dependent arising. Let me add this such by way of clarification. Some of you may have heard about the two chief disciples of the Buddha, Venerable Sariputta and Moggallana. As laymen, they were called Patichcha and Kolita. These two Brahmin youths were going in search of truth. Once they went to see a sort of concert called Giraj Samaj, Hilltop Festival. While they were watching the dramatic performance, both of them got disgusted before long, probably because of their samsaric maturity. It might have served as a prelude to them for the realization of the vacuity of the drama of existence. Shortly afterwards, Patichcha happened to come across Venerable Lassaji. One of the first 5 disciples of the Buddha, Venerable Lassaji, was on his arms round when Patichcha saw him, impressed his saintly appearance. Patichcha followed him, and after he has had his meal approached him and asked him, "Who is your teacher? What sort of Dhamma does he preach?" Venerable Lassaji modestly replied, "I have gone forth only recently. I don't know much Dhamma. I am Patichcha." The other said, "I can understand in detail what is said in brief." Then Venerable Lassaji uttered the following verse: "Ye Dhamma hetu pabhava te sang hetung tathagato aha te sanchayo nirodho evang vadi mahasamano." Whatever things that arise from cause, their cause the Tathagata has told, and also their cessation. Thus teaches the great reckless. Patichcha become a scream winner on hearing the first 2 lines of the verse. How did he become the scream winner? The secret is to be found on the commentary we have given above. Ye Dhamma hetu pabhava te sang hetung tathagato aha. Whatever things that arise from cause, their cause the Tathagata has told. With these 2 lines, only the direct order has been explained, but about this many are confused. Even the commentators think that arise from cause are what we call Patichcha Dhamma. According to the commentators, however, the cause of things arising from cause of ignorance, avidya. The cause, hetu, is not ignorance, but the law of conditionality itself, as we explained above. Patichcha understood that all these are conditioned as soon as he heard the first 2 lines. The norm underlying them is what is expressed, this being this arises. Since Patichcha was of mature wit, even by the first 2 lines he understood whatever that arises from cause and conditions has to cease of necessity. Even before a hint to the reverse order has given, he inferred the norm of info. You may have heard that even when an ordinary person becomes a stream winner, the gist of his attainment is given in a short formula. In fact, the shortest and purest expression of it, which runs as follows: Yang kinchi samudaya dhammam sabbantang nirodha dhammam. Whatever is of a nature to arise, all that is of a nature to cease. Here we have the basic principle in nutshell. Whatever arises due to cause and conditions has to cease of necessity. Though Buddhists attain the fruit of stream winning merely by hearing the first two lines of Venerable Lasaji's verse. His friend called it attained it only when he heard all four lines. The other two lines are Te sanchayo nirodho evang vadi mahasamano. And also their cessation thus teaches the great recluse. Things arisen from cause, hetu pabhava dhamma, mentioned in the first line, refer to the 12 wings of the law of dependent arising. All the 12 links are arisen from causes. Their cause hetu is the basic principle. The law as such, even if a small child realizes it, he is a stream winner. So let us proceed from there. By now you might have got some idea of it. The 12 links are so many illustrations. What underlines them in the law of conditionality? Form ignorance as conditions, preparations, form preparations as condition, consciousness, and so on. That is how the formula runs. But that is not all. It is only the direct order. But then the Buddha points out that its ignorance can be made to cease at whatever moment. That is to say, with the dawn of wisdom, preparations, consciousness, name and form, six sense spaces, and all the rest of links ceases altogether. Though we say so, it might not be easy to understand all this. To facilitate understanding the points, the Buddha has allowed the use of similes. So let us now pass on to the world of similes. But before that, there is something worth mentioning in particular. There is a wonderful relationship between consciousness and name and form. Even in the past, many of our scholars have granted the fact, and there is a reciprocal relationship between them. This is something the Buddha himself has declared. Even the Buddha Vipassana had proclaimed that there is such a relationship between consciousness and name and form. That is to say, dependent on consciousness is name and form, and dependent on name and form is consciousness. This is where many scholars get stuck, this interdependence. If one starts searching from the other end, what is the cause of decay and death? Birth. What is the cause of birth? Existence or becoming. If one goes on questioning like that and comes up to name and form on searching further for its cause, one will find consciousness, but then search does not go beyond consciousness. For the cause of consciousness is name and form. Between these two is an interdependence or a reciprocal relationship. Reciprocal relationship. This is the crux of the whole problem. To explain this, we have given various similes, such as the vertex simile. A current of water tries to run away from the main stream, but when its attempt is foiled, it turns back, but on turning back, it forgets its relationship with the mainstream. It is like the cause of two hubs. At whatever moment the cyclic process is complete, it becomes a unit. There is a similar magical illusion implicit in consciousness. In fact, the Buddha has declared that consciousness is comparable to a magic show. The magical effect of this magic show is such that it reflects something. As we all know, a conscious being has the ability to look back, to reflect. This is not properly common to inanimate things like trees and rocks. All conscious beings possess the ability to reflect or retrospect. This reflection can be done rightly or wrongly. To illustrate these two ways of reflection, we have a simile, a simple one, intelligible to anybody. The simile of a dog on a plank crossing a stream. We have mentioned this quite often. While crossing the stream on a park over it, a dog looks down into the water. Seeing a dog there, it either wags its tail in a friendly way, or growls angrily, or else out curiosity, it keeps on looking down again and again. Due to wrong attention, it doesn't understand what really happens. The dog thinks that it is looking because it sees. But the truth of the matter is that it sees because it looks. Again I say, the dog thinks that it is looking because it sees. But the truth of the matter is that it sees because it looks. Every time it looks, it sees a dog. Consciousness has such a delusive magical quality about it. This is because consciousness has the property of reflection something. What does the reflect? Name and form. Let me first explain what name and form is before giving other similes. The terms nama-rupa, name and form, nama-rupa, is variously interpreted by scholars. Nama has nothing to do with bending, as something explained. The constituents of nama are feeling, vedana. Second one, perception, sanya. Third one, intention, chetana. Fifth one, contact, passa. And attention. Attention means manasikara. You may even count these 5 on your fingers. Feeling, perceptions, intention, contact, attention are collectively called name, nama. Why are they called name? Generally we recognize something with the help of a conventional name given to it. But a child gets to know something through feeling. Take for instance the cause of a behind man. Isn't it by feeling that a blind man gets to know something? Feeling gives him a sign of perception. Perception gives rise to an intention. Intention directs him to same point of contact. Now that is where contact comes in. Last of all comes attention. There are many critics who question this counting of feeling as the foremost among constituents of name. As we sometimes pointed out, those who go by the commentarial tradition inadvertently put contact first. Did Venerable Sariputta make a mistake? Did the Buddha himself go wrong? Definitely not. At this point, we have to say something about consciousness. Venerable Sariputta clarifies it in the Mahavedana Sutta. It is as if Venerable Mahakotita get it clarified for us. Consciousness, they say, friend, in how far is it, friend, called consciousness? Vinyanam also uchate. Kitavata anko also vinyananti uchate. Knows discriminatively, it is in that sense, friend, that consciousness is so called. When Venerable Sariputta goes on to explain what sort of discrimination consciousness is doing, now listening attentively, what is the basic discrimination? This is pleasant, so one discriminates. This is painful, so one discriminates. This is neither painful nor pleasant, so one discriminates. Vedanati ko also tasma vinyananti uchanti. Kincha vedanati, kincha vijanati. Sukantapi vijanati, dukkhampi vijanati, adukkam sukhampi vijanati. So, then the very first function of consciousness is the awareness of feeling. That is where consciousness awakes. It is true that even the rubber tree exudes latex when an incision is made on it. But surely we don't say that the tree is weeping. Therefore, the basic function of consciousness is feeling. It is through feeling that the notion of self awakes. Even that fact is clearly pointed out once the Buddha asked the Venerable Ananda, Therian Ananda, they are in Ananda. However, says this, feeling is not myself. Myself is not a nature of experiencing. He should be asked thus, friend, where there is nothing felt in whatever way, would there be the notion am or I am? There would not, Lord. Ta Ananda yoso eva maha na heva ko me vedana atta. Appati samvedano me attati, so evamassa vakanyo yatta panyavaso sabbaso vedanayang natti api nuko natti asmiti siati no he prambante. Now that is the reason why feeling the content first instead of contact. The basic function of consciousness is the discrimination between the three grades of feeling: the pleasant, the painful, and the neither painful nor pleasant. As you are seated here, why do you know and then change your posture? Isn't it because of feeling? So in their situation too, feelings gives rise to perception. Then comes intention. Never mind listening to the sermon. Let me turn a little. That is the intention. Where does the next thought go? To the point of contact, with the attention gets engaged. I hope you all can now gather what the constituents of name now are. Then what is called form, rupa? There again many are confused. There is definition of rupa in nama rupa. Chattaro cha mahabhutana, chatunnam cha mahabhutana, upadaya rupam. The four great primaries and four derived from the four great primaries. The word upadaya this definition is often mistranslated and misinterpreted. The four great primers are like four nondescript ghosts. They can be recognized only with the help of the factors listed under name, nama. So rupa is in effect rupa sanya, perception of form, derived from the four great primaries. Take it that away, for that is how the descripts become describable. What we have here is not that matter rupa. The scientists have in mind to explain this with coined variations, definitions. Name in name and form is formal name. Form in name and form is nominal form. Now try to get this clear. What is meant by saying nama in name and form is formal name is that it is not the type of conventional name known to the world like clock and chair. It is only the most preliminary to incipient stage in naming, as in the course of a blind man acquainting himself with some object, though thought, feeling, perception, and the rest of the name group. Then about form in name and form. He said that is nominal form or name or form only in name, in the sense that is not something existing by itself as known in the world. It can only be known through the constituents of name. As you all know, the earth element is perceived as hard or soft, and the fire element is terms of hotness and coldness. The four great primaries are recognized by means of the factors on the name side. In fact, it is only a perception of form rupa sanya. That is why we called it nominal form, or form only in name. If one correctly understands name and form, he would realize that is merely a reflection on consciousness. Think, for instance, of what comes before the eyes, what falls on the retina. Isn't that the being of the camera? It is only reflection which the brain interprets as beautiful. That is why Buddha called perception a mirage. What appears out there as beautiful is actually not there. That is to say, with eye as condition it appears beautiful. To one who wears green spectacles, for instance, it would appear green. Consciousness and name and form are interrelated. We use a special term in this connection on that is found in the discourse, namely dvaita, duality. Existence involves a duality. That is what we call water or vortex. We shall explain it in due course. There is vortex between supply and demand on which price depends. The interdependence between consciousness and name and form involves the entire world in a radical interplay. Think of the cinema world or any other world we are familiar with, the sports, or the cricket world, for instance. First of all, let us take the cricket world. Now what happens in the cricket world? The poor bat and the ball become alive only when the two teams confront each other. Isn't that so? The rules of the game and the prospect of winning represent name in this case. The cricket world is sustained by the delusion with which the two terms take their stand on the two sides. That is the duality involved in the sea in this case. Now think of the cinema world. It exists between the sense on the screen and the audience. The darkness of ignorance provides the necessary background. In the case of the cricket game, the two teams forget their friendship in the heat of competition. That is the background of ignorance. Preparations arising of that ignorance sustain the cricket match. Bodily, verbal and mental perceptions, hopes and disappointments are bound by rules and regulation of the game. In the cinema world also, their background of darkness ironically highlights the delusion created by the makeup of actors and actresses. When one is enjoying a film show, one is unaware of the background of darkness. One forgets that the scenes appear beautiful due to the darkness around. This gives us a clue to the significance of the darkness of ignorance. That is why the simile of the movie is helpful in understanding the law of dependent arising. That is not simile of have introduced. the Buddha himself has given the simile of the movie, though of course not in the modern sense. In the cinema world, within the darkness of ignorance, preparations go on in the mind of the cinema fan with which he experiences joy and sorrow. In this way, we can create any number of worlds. As you turn the page of a newspaper, you pass through several such words. Several such worlds. Each world has its own name factors and form factors. The illusion of life goes on within a succession of such words. Let us take another simile to illustrate another aspect of this illusion. The simile of the chess game, the basic hint for what I am going to tell you. I borrowed from a certain story about a Zen master. Some of you may have heard of Mahayana Buddhism as it went on spreading on section become apprehensive of the trend towards excessive philosophical shiving and began to lay emphasis on concentration and insight. That section came to be known as in Buddhist. Zen masters are a strange lot. Sometimes they would train their pupils by giving them insoluble riddles called koans. It is said that while grappling with a puzzle, they attained enlightenment. This sudden enlightenment they called Satori. So, this is the background. Now I shall tell a story. Whether it be true or not is instructive all the same. There was a Zen master who was very stern. He used to train his pupils by extremely stern methods. One day, he ordered two of his pupils to play a game of chess without losing. In the story I read, no names are given, but I shall give two meaningful singular names to the two pupils. One is Ajit, invisible. The meaning of the name Ajit is invincible. The other is Sumit, good friend. Now the Zen master orders Ajit and Sumit to play chess, imposing a strict condition. You must play without losing. Whoever lost, I shall behead. Both knew that the teacher meant what he said as he stood sword in hand. So these two obedient pupils took up the challenge in moral fear and started the game while the teacher stood nearby with raised sword. As the game went on, before long, invisible Ajit reached a point where it was obvious that with two more draws he would be the winner. Sumit, the good friend that he is, though terrified, resigned himself to his fate without Malike. However, Ajit, moved by compassion for his good friend, knowingly made a false draw in a spirit of self-sacrifice. With the next draw, Ajit, who could have been the winner, would lose his head and Sumit would win, but lost his friend. Now, what will the Zen Master do? Will he cut off Ajit's head and keep his sword, honest and truthful as he is? Well, this is what he did. He bent down and swept the chessboard clean. That was the end of the game. You might think that it was a tame draw with no winner or loser. But it seems both Ajit and Sumit emerged winners, for the story ends with this enigmatic sentence. Both of them attained satori. But how? No explanation has given in the book I read. Granted that it is a true story, let us try to understand how such a thing is possible. Invisible Ajit sacrificed his life for his friend. Sumit, with an air of resignation, was ready to accept the inevitable, so that his friend would survive the fatal game. So they both were prepared to let go. The chessboard was their world. Their existence, power in the chess world, was due to grasping pardon. Then prospect of winning was themselves for them a question of life and death. When they both sacrificed their lives, the let go was complete. But neither of them had not died. Only death had to die. As they both gained insight into deathlessness, amatha. How did it happen? When the Zen Master swept the chessboard, declaring the game null and void, both pupils realized the delusion they were in. It was as if they woke up from a dream. The dream was the existence in a world of chess fully involved with the pieces. So it seems, by means of a game of chess in which no one won or lost, intractable Zen Master gave his pupil an insight into the law of dependent arising, the secret of bondage and release. One might think that such wonderful techniques of training are found only in Zen Buddhism. What that is, no, not so. I shall tell you a similar story in our own tradition, which perhaps you have already heard but not fully understood. It is about Akrobd Uggasena, all alluded in the Dhammapada and related in detail in its commentary. It seems Uggasena was so skillful as an acrobat that he could stand balanced on a 60 60-covered bamboo pole. One day, when he was performing in his midst of a crowd, the Buddha, while on his arms round, came to the spot with Venerable Moggallana. At the Buddha's request, Venerable Moggallana challenged Ugasena to display the acrobat feats. The latter in response made a number of circling leaps into the sky and stood upright on the bamboo pole, precariously balanced. Then the Buddha uttered the following ritual verse, which embodied a challenge similar to the one the Zen master had made. Mancha pure mancha pacha to majje mancha bhavasa paragu sabbhatta vimatta manaso na puna jati jara yam upehisi. Let go what has gone before. Let go which comes after. Let go they hold on the middle as well. Thus, with mind released in every way, thou comest never more to birth and decay. Here the words pure and pachayo stand for the temporal past and future, but it the acrobat previously balanced. They are suggestive of a spatial there before and behind. Likewise, majje temporally means the present, but the abrupt it could ironically refer to his risky spatial stance. On the bamboo pole, spatial stance on the bamboo pole. So here we have something like a cone. However, Ugasena, with his samsaric maturity in wisdom, backed by his intervally one-pointed concentration on top of the bamboo pole, took it as a challenge for insight. The last two lines give the necessary hint that was enough. He attained arahanthood, then Andhra came down from the pole and worshipped the Buddha. So there too we have an instance of a subtle topic of meditation being presented as an insoluble riddle. Here again the question of duality comes up. Past and future is a duality like victory and defeat. By the way, regarding that story about winning and losing, there is a beautiful verse in Sukhavagga, chapter on happiness in the Dhammapada. As we saw, it was for winning that Ajit and Sumit played chess. Both of them realized the mass of suffering involved. They understood that birth, decay, and all the rest of suffering are dependent on grasping. The Dhammapada verse is a beautiful summary of this idea. Yayam veram pasavati dukkham seti parajito. Upasanto sukham seti hitva jaya parajaya. Victory breeds hatred. The deflect lies in sorrow. Happily lie lies the tranquil one, giving up victory and defeat. Victory and defeat both have to given up. What Ajit and Sumit finally realized? The duality of victory and defeat is sustained by ignorance as in the course of a cricket match. How many have gone crazy about it? It is the same in regard to films and teledrama. That is why the Buddha declared that all worldlings are insane. We don't like to be called mad, but the truth is that ignorance makes one forget. Like darkness, in this case of the film show, it is the darkness of ignorance that sustains the two teams in the sports world. The two teams, with their respective well-wishers, create their own worlds productive of hatred and malice. So you should understand that the formula of Patichcha samuppada is not something to be heard and rattled off meaninglessly. You must try to grasp the deep meaning behind the statement of the formula in direct and reverse order. Let us try to understand why is it said that sankhara or preparations arise due to avidya or ignorance. The term sankhara itself has connotations, the deception or spuriousness in the Indian society in the past. It was associated with the makeup and other preparatory activities of a drama. They could be bodily, verbal or mental. This applies on the cricket game as well. The magic show of consciousness is kept up by those sankharas. Confounding consciousness, vijnana, in an interdependent partnership. There is name and form, nama rupa, feeling, perception, intention, contact, attention, together with the four great primaries or elements like earth, water, fire and air, and form derived from them. The deepest point in Patichcha samuppada is traceable to this interplay between consciousness and name and form. That is what we call vortex. If all goes well, you might get the opportunity to hear more about vortex next time. For the present, just understand this much. Patichcha samuppada, as interpreted by many nowadays, is divisible into three leaves, with ignorance and preparations as the past, becoming birth and death as the future, and the intervenial 8 links as the present. Immediately with the cessation of ignorance, preparation ceases, and along with it consciousness. The cessation of consciousness is something like a subsidence or appeasement. One might mistake cessation of consciousness to be death itself. That is not the case. It is the cessation of the conditioned or made up sankhara consciousness. What comes up then is the non-manifestive consciousness, anindasana vijnana, non-manifestive consciousness. This is an aspect of the Dhamma that had long remained neglected. There is consciousness that is freed from name and form. It is a substance and appeasement which arahants experience. It is within the constituted consciousness that the worldlings are entrapped and bound. This consistency is sixfold. There is the visual world, the auditory world, and so forth. The Buddha has defined the world with reference to the six sense spaces. As a matter of fact, the so-called world is the world of the sixfold sense sphere. It is not the world that modern scientific frame up. Now even they are becoming aware of the shortcoming in understanding. There is only a visual world, an auditory world, and olfactory world, as a gustatory world, a tactile world, and lastly the mental world. Let us not forget that six sense spaces are dependent on name and form, so that division, the bifurcation, the duality is maintained down the line as internal and external, ajata bahidha. I is the internal sphere, the form is external sphere. Both are made up the four elements, but greater value is attached to the internal, to the consciousness body, saviññāna kaya. It is the perception that is conscious body, just that the Buddha called a mirage. One simply goes on watching sense on the eye screen, the listening to the eardrum. That is the cinema and the music we enjoy. The Buddha pointed out to the world for the first time that is due to the ignorance of not knowing, and the movement of touch is the case of all sense spaces. That feeling, perception, and all the rest of the flowing, as the result of it being kept running round and round in the cycle of existence, bhava. It is probably the difficulty of explaining into the world that made him pointed out the law of dependent arising in the direct order, in the reverse order, and in the direct and reverse order. He must have thought how difficult it is to present it to the world through the medium of language. It is so deeper as a Dhamma. Therefore, you should not take it lightly as a mere jumble of words, but apply it your own lives and tread the path of Dhamma. The path is morality, concentration, and wisdom. There is no other path to understand the Dhamma in all its depth. However, in the past had understand this Dhamma, be they arahants, laymen or laywomen, they all accomplished it taught morality, concentration, and wisdom. It is the same today too. Therefore, it is not as some believe, attainable through haphazard methods. Though we spoke about instantaneous realization, whatever it may be, the law of dependent arising in one thing and its illustration another, so far as the 12 linked formula is concerned. when you get down to the practical practice of satipatthana, you will understand how the Buddha had made known the distinction between the internal and external, and rising and ceasing. To those who had developed insight in their samsaric past, like Ugasena, the Buddha could impart instant enlightenment. But you must not think that all are similarly gifted. So you should make a genuine effort with that aim, making a start from morality itself. Today you have made a good start. Most of you have observed the high precepts. I hope you have spent the day fruitfully in meditation and the like. I do hope that wish and this sermon too would be useful to you in your insight meditation and help you realize your noble aspirations, whatever beings there be, from the lowest hell, Avicii, to the highest Brahma world, Akanita. May they all rejoice in this insightful sermon. May it conduce to their attainment to Nibbana. May you all realize those high attainments in this very life. Ettavata ca mihi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodhantu sabbe bhuta anumodhantu sabbe sattha anumodhantu sabba sambatti siddhya.